Welcome back to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast, hosted by Matt Muller,
best-selling author of The Mindful Innovator and Rethink Retail's top retail expert.
We can help retail leaders find clarity so they can grow their businesses purposefully.
We will uncover mindful tips, innovative solutions, and purposeful leadership advice and strategies that you can apply immediately to your retail innovation. Are you ready to innovate on purpose?
Hey, before we jump into the episode today, I just wanted to say thank you for hitting the play button. You being here fires me up, and I cannot wait to share with you the insights that are going to make a difference in your business. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and leave a review so I can reach as many retail leaders as possible. They too need to hear this. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Innovate on Purpose podcast brought to you by the Mindful Innovator. Today I am here with a very special guest. His name is Jeff Standridge, and he is here from a company called Innovation Junkie. Absolutely love the name of the company. Love the work that he's doing. But I think Jeff can explain a lot better what he's doing right now and a little bit more about his background and how he's an innovation expert and is going to be able to help our audience today innovate on purpose. So Jeff, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Matt. It's great to be here, and I appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. Jeff, please tell the audience a little bit about your background and Innovation Junkie.
Yeah, so before Innovation Junkie, so I come to the world of innovation and entrepreneurship as a corporate change agent and an entrepreneur. So I was in the medical field for a number of years, and part of my doctoral research was in studying the differences of high performers. And that led me to a technology organization, a publicly traded company where I spent about 20 years doing mergers and acquisitions and internal change work, innovation, et cetera, and left there about 8 years ago to start what I call my private practice, so to speak, in the world of startup consulting, innovation, and leadership. So. Mm-hmm. So we've had Innovation Junkie for the last several years. So we focus on helping organizations achieve sustained strategic growth. That sustained growth is informed by usually by innovation, and we use innovation as a tool to help guide that growth for organizations.
That's awesome, Jeff. And we have kind of similar backgrounds as far as from the corporate side into now, being entrepreneurs and helping folks with innovation. And it's amazing to kind of just see how corporations innovate and how they kind of, define what innovation really is. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, from your point of view, what is innovation?
Yeah. I use a definition that I've kind of pieced together from multiple sources because I'm not sure that any one definition that I found really met. So I refer to it as planned change that's aimed at either a better way of doing things, more efficient, more pleasant, more productive way of doing things, or a way that or aimed at things that substantially reduce the transaction cost of doing that business. So planned change to make things better within an organization. It can involve the use of technology or not. And so I think that real critical element is the plan change. It's not just change for change's sake. It's a thoughtful, mindful, if you will, methodical process to affect the right change in the right areas at the right time for the right purposes.
I love that definition. That's really good. And it definitely takes in multiple definitions. But I mean, I know when I first started, running an innovation team, it always I thought it was about robots, lasers, AI, especially now, everyone wants to put AI into their business some way, somehow, just because it's cool and really understanding, it's that planned change of understanding how you're going to make things better. And it could be the littlest things. It doesn't have to be this, audacious goal that's, 3 years out in front of you. It's just, what are the little things that you can do and plan it out?
We use and frequently discuss the three different types of innovation. There's incremental innovation, and many organizations engage in incremental innovation as a form of process improvement. And, it's a little bit of change, but over time may have a very significant impact on the organization, but it's incremental at the start. Then there's breakthrough innovation, and that's where you're taking an existing business model and applying new technology to it. So I think about Uber. Taxis have been around for a long time. The business model's been around for a long time, but the technology that was applied to it really transformed it. Or it could be existing technology that has a new business model attached to it, right? And then there's disruptive innovation where something actually gets displaced. And I think the prototypical example there is web streaming, video streaming. That's basically replacing cable.
Mm-hmm.
Those
are three great definitions. Totally makes sense. So we had the incremental, which is the closer in, easier things to possibly do. Then we had the in the middle ground there was breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And then disruptive.
Yep.
Totally makes sense. Like on the corporate side of the business, like when you talk to leaders, like where should I go? Like, so what should be like the type of innovation that I should look to launch within my business?
Well, I think it really starts with, we go about innovation because of one of two things. Either there's too much of a bad thing going on in our business or some kind of pain, right? Mm-hmm. Or there's not enough of a good thing going on in our business, or there's something to gain, right? And so I usually start with what I call the problem, the result, or the opportunity. And one of the challenge questions that we issue a lot of times with teams is, what one thing, if you could solve it or seize it, would be a complete and total game changer for your organization? And so I see your shirt says brainstorm. So we just run a normal brainstorming exercise, right? And what problem, result, or opportunity, if you solved it or seized it, would be a complete and total game changer. Begin doing some brainstorming there. That leads to some discussion then. We generally do some form of down selection. We end up with 3 or 4 or 5 kind of areas. We put some teams around those, and then we begin the process of actually being very specific to define the problem we're trying to solve or define the opportunity we're trying to seize. Mm-hmm. Many organizations, someone gets a great idea and they throw a bunch of resources around implementing this idea only for the idea to fall flat 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the road after they've invested an inordinate amount of time of human effort and financial resources. And it fell flat because no one got specific in defining the outcomes they were trying to achieve or the problem they were trying to solve.
Yeah, you see the time and time again with innovation where it's just like it's not fully defining it and just going after those shiny objects or those ideas and just not really understanding what's the planned change, right? To really to accomplish that.
That's another reason that I like to say that it's planned change. It's not innovation for the sake of innovation. It's doing things differently for the sake of a better state within your business.
Yeah. Now, one of the things too, like when I ran an innovation team, I had to think wisely about those 3 different types of innovation that you talked about, like the incremental mm-hmm. versus the breakthrough and disruptive. And I kind of looked at my innovation because I was running an innovation team as a portfolio. So what were mm-hmm. the ideas that we had in there? And, which one should we have? Like, what should there be 20% incremental and then you have 40% disruptive, I guess. Have you ever considered that pipeline and understanding, what should be the right blend for a company within innovation?
I haven't gotten to ratios per se, but I have looked at the bandwidth of an organization and, whether it's a change initiative or an innovation initiative, and many times the lines are blurred between those. What does the organization have the bandwidth to actually accommodate and execute on? Because innovation that we can't execute on, it's really not going to help anybody at all. And part of execution occurs on the definition side on the front end of what it is we're actually trying to achieve. And so I find many times that depending on the size of the organization, depending on the scope of the organization, sometimes they only have the bandwidth, particularly in a fast growing, rapidly changing organization, they only have the bandwidth for one or two innovation projects at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
And, they may both be disruptive. They may both be breakthrough. It just really depends on the organization.
Yeah, so take a look at that plan and say, do I have those resources to accomplish that? Whether it's in-house, external, whatever it may be, just are those resources there to make sure that you can effectively execute the plan?
That's right.
Yeah,
because I like to think that innovation is everyone's job, but it needs to be done within a framework of we still have to deliver on the business.
Expand on it a little bit. Like innovation's everyone's job. That really does resonate with me because, like I said, coming from like an innovation team, it was basically my team's job to run innovation through our organization. But it really does come down to that it's everyone that needs to get involved. Like how do you make innovation everyone's job within the organization?
Well, I think I'm a big proponent of the culture of an organization and the leadership of the organization weaving into the culture that it is an innovative organization, or that they want to pursue planned innovations to make the organization better. And so, one of the things that I have done is I work with a large health system, and the CEO takes his extended leadership team offsite every quarter, and they do some kind of a leadership development, full day leadership development for about 100 people. Mm-hmm. And, twice in the last couple of years, we've taken those days and run innovation sprints. And then there was, the top 3 or 4 teams were selected from that day. And then I spent some time coaching those teams over the course of the next 3 or 4 months, getting them ready to actually pitch to the board of directors. There was a demo day, so to speak. There were winners and second losers, so to speak. And the board actually had committed money to the tune of several tens of thousands of dollars behind implementing the winning innovation.
Oh, wow.
And there are some things that have happened in this health system as a result of that innovation. And so, making it part of the culture of the organization, creating a mechanism where employees can bring ideas to the leadership. If there is an innovation team, then, creating a funnel so that innovation team can field ideas from the people on the ground. If there's not a designated innovation team, creating a funnel where people can bring ideas to the leadership and they can bring them up to maybe leadership teams, and they can decide on what they're going to pursue. But I think those are critical elements of creating a culture of innovation, so to speak.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I love the event, and just kind of almost like the Shark Tank, if you will, right? It's just that's a great way to take people off site, get them to think differently. And they say, like, you have your best ideas away from the office, get out of the office, and have those types of sessions. And I think what really resonated with me there too, Jeff, was like the fact that there was an investment, there was a budget to do something with that information. So it wasn't just like, hey, we should do these really cool things, and then, okay, let's go back to our day jobs and keep on plugging away. There was actually a plan of action to forge forward afterwards, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
And you keep on mentioning, I'm sorry, go Jeff.
No, please go ahead.
No, you kept on mentioning leaders. So it's really important that leadership is involved in getting them to either listen to other people, to be involved with the innovation process, to make those decisions, to create that plan. And you mentioned something about innovation and leadership, and how those two coexist. Can you just talk a little bit about how leaders and innovation kind of just?
Yeah, I actually probably go one step further when I talk about innovation and leadership, one step further than saying they coexist. I say that they're inseparable. And what I mean by that is if you are leading and you're responsible for leading an organization, a unit within an organization, and you're not focused on innovating as well, in other words, planning change in your organization in order to make things better, then you probably won't be leading for long. Either another competitor will come and displace you in the marketplace, or perhaps another leader will come and displace you in the workplace. By the same token, if you're innovating, but you're not leading, in other words, you're not bringing people into that innovation process, you're not affecting the longer term change of the organization to implement that innovation, then that innovation will be for naught. It won't have an impact because you didn't bring the right people into the innovation process. You didn't influence the right people. You didn't do a good job of maybe creating the business case for that innovation. And so both of them really have to coexist. I think they're really inseparable. If you're not doing one, then you won't be doing the other for long.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful, Jeff. Like just thinking about that, like you could have like the best idea in the world. But if you're not communicating that with your team and you're not getting their insights and their buy-in,
Yeah.
good luck. Good luck to you.
Right.
It's not going to work, right? So it is like where those two are definitely inseparable, and it kind of that's what creates that culture. That culture for innovation, or is it just status quo?
The greatest competitor to a new innovation or to a new change initiative within an organization is the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, very difficult to overcome the inertia of the status quo. And so we have to go into our innovation exercise or our innovation process thinking about how do we create massive value with the least expenditure of human effort or behavior change. Because status quo is the most critical competitor that we have. And so if you get massive value, but it's going to require massive behavior change, those two things are a bit in conflict. And so if you have, you reduce the behavior change and you also reduce the value that's generated, well, those things will be in conflict. So you've got to create this difference between the value that's generated and the behavior change that's required in order to overcome that inertia. A gradient that we've got to create, a gradient between the two.
Yeah, it does come down to that change management piece, right? It's just like how do you help people kind of break through that discomfort of change? It is a very uncomfortable feeling to have to do something different, even if it is better.
Yeah,
so
sure.
you have to like 10x it, right? It's just to be able to really see that, to get people to go and do that.
And that happens in the startup world as well, because the number one reason that a startup company will fail, a true kind of scalable startup company will fail, is because they create a product that no one wants. Or better yet, they create a product that not enough people will buy at the price point required for it to be a profitable ongoing concern. And they run out of money before they figure that out. So creating this gradient between the status quo and the value that's generated is vital, both in the startup world and in the innovation world within existing companies.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the startup world a little bit. Like, so thinking about that, like creating a awesome product that you feel is absolutely necessary, but maybe it isn't the right product market fit. How does a startup company figure that out sooner than later, like when their budget's up?
Customer discovery. What you have to do, you've got to go through a process to quantify and to qualify the problem that you're solving. So if you're, or the solution, or not the problem you're solving, or the opportunity you're trying to create, to seize, if you will. And so what quantifiably, how big is this problem? Is it a big enough problem for enough people? Is it massive impact to those people? And then you have to qualify it. If I were to go out and talk to a sample of 100 of the ideal target customer segments who experience this problem to the greatest degree, or who would benefit from seizing this opportunity to the greatest degree, and I were to go out and talk to a sample of 100 of those folks, and I were to create a very thoughtful questionnaire of open-ended questions, non-leading, non-biased, don't lead the witness type of questions, and begin to ask them questions about how they do things, and none of them state anything about the problem I've identified, not one of them, then maybe I'm not on the right track with the problem I'm trying to solve. But if 70% of them make drastic statements about the pain that they experience relative to the problem that I've kind of identified, okay, maybe I'm on the right track there. And so we quantify the size of the opportunity or the size of the problem. Then we go out and qualify it through customer discovery. Many times we find that about 60 or 70% of our underlying assumptions are accurate, but it's those 30 to 40% of inaccuracies that end up killing whatever it is we're trying to do. So we then make some refinements and we reiterate our problem statement. We refine and our problem statement or our opportunity statement. Once we're pretty sure that we've got kind of problem solution fit, then we go out and start trying to get product market fit. We start designing our solution and we're focused on how do we create massive value with the least expenditure of human effort? Is it real? Can we win? Is it worth the effort? That real win worth test, so to speak.
Yeah. So you got the two Q's there. So
yeah, for sure.
Quantify and qualify makes total sense. And you hit something too that kind of that really resonated as well, which was the non-biased questions. Like, I know we are very partial, and we don't even realize our bias sometimes, and we create these questions or these qualifiers that you're just leading them down the path, and they're going to start saying, "Oh yeah, absolutely, I love that idea." Like one of the first projects I worked on, I went in and I did ethnography, and I was leading the witness. I was like, "Oh, we're creating this really cool concept, and this is what we're going to do. Do you think this is something that you would find a benefit in?" And it was like the dumbest way to ask the question, because then, of course, what are they going to say? Yeah, do it. Go do it.
Yeah. I mean, and people will tell us. People want to agree with us, right?
Of course,
and so we give them a reason to agree with us, they will. In Giff Constable's book, Talking to Humans, which I highly recommend for understanding your customer and crafting those questions. It's a booklet. It's really a 80-page booklet or something like that, but it's kind of become the Bible of customer discovery. There's a cartoon in there that he says, I was told I needed to go out and talk to more people about the problem I'm trying to solve. And this couple says, "Yeah, well, we think you're on the right track, son." And, so he went to his parents. Well, of course, they're going to tell you, "Oh, you're doing a great job." Well, even when it's not our parents or not someone we know, if we ask them, "Do you like this?" a vast majority of them are going to say, "Oh, yeah, that's great." What we want them to do is we want to ask them some probing questions that get them to either state the same problem that we've identified or begin to articulate similar pains to the problem we've identified without actually asking them, right? And so asking those probing, open-ended, unbiased questions without leading the witness is the right way to do that. And being willing to confront the brutal facts. If they don't say anything remotely akin to what we've identified as the potential pain, then and we listen, well, guess what? Maybe they're bringing up other pains across that sample that we didn't anticipate, and it's a much bigger pain and a much bigger problem, and one they're much more ready to try to solve.
Yeah. So you be open, definitely be open to making those pivots early on as you find those insights out. Absolutely, there could be something that's a much bigger thing that kind of you just uncover. I know that's happened to me so many times where you uncover these things when you're in that discovery phase. So
that's right.
Absolutely. So yeah, I would definitely just recommend anyone in the audience that is looking to qualify, an idea or this innovation concept to definitely think about your questions, be more mindful about, the way that you're wording them, plan them out, and make sure that they're not biased. And I love Talking to Humans, definitely a great resource. And I'll put that in the show notes as well for people to check out, because definitely something worth checking out.
For sure. For sure.
Now, we're talking about innovation and coming up with really cool, ideas and solutions. And I think we get down to a point where we start to really just love our own ideas and our own solutions. But most of the time, we don't know if that's really something that is really needed, right? So you talk about falling in love with the problem. So I would love for you to just talk a little bit about that, Jeff.
Yeah, I borrowed that from Ash Maurya, who's the author of Running Lean and the guy that really came up with the Lean Canvas, which was a I guess a two times improvement on the business model canvas and the problem solving canvas, the lean startup, and so he kind of iterated on that and made the lean canvas better. But he has a quote that actually we have on our wall in the office that says, "Fall in love with the problem, not the solution." And so, what we really need to be focused on is falling in love with the problems that we solve because of the impact that they generate for the customers for whom we solve them. And we may be those customers, our employees may be those customers, or our customers and clients may be those customers. But falling in love with the problem and creating innovations specifically to solve problems or to create opportunities. The prototypical thing that I see is an entrepreneur gets this great idea, or this developer gets a great idea, and he comes home from work, or she comes home from work, goes into their home office, and they spend the next 3 months cranking out code, and they produce this elegant piece of software, and they can't figure out why no one will buy it, why they can get zero traction in the market. And it's because they talk to no one. They fell in love with their idea versus falling in love with the problem they're trying to solve. And I actually had a client who did that, a young founder. He was in the real estate business, and he came to me several years ago and he said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for an app. It's going to absolutely turn the real estate agents market on its head. It's going to solve all of their problems, and it's only going to be $1.99 a month." And so he said, "I just need you to point me to a developer because I've got $10,000 to go get this thing developed." And I didn't tell him that $10,000 probably wouldn't touch what he was trying to do. But I said, "Look, you go talk to 100 people whom you think will be prime users of that app. And when you do, you come back and tell me, no matter what you learn, I will point you to a developer, but I'm not going to point you to one until then." And so he was gone for about 2 months. About week 9, he called me and said, "I need to sit down with you." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" And he goes, "Well, he's about early 30s probably at the time. And he said, "Well, I've got 2 things I need to tell you. Number one, I didn't talk to 100 people." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "But I did talk to 50. And not one person within that 50 that I talked to were willing to pay $1.99 a month, less than $24 a year, $25 a year, to actually solve the problem that I'm trying to solve. So my idea is not going to work." And I said, "Why do you think your idea won't work?" And he said, "Well, because at 8,000 downloads and $1.99 a month, I could be profitable, or at least break even. Now I've got to generate, several 100,000 to 1 million downloads so that I can create a target audience discreet enough that I can sell advertising on my app, because that's the way free apps pay for themselves." He said, "And I'll never have the budget for 1 million downloads." He said, "The second thing I need to tell you is thank you, because you saved my life savings." And so, that's kind of the falling in love. He fell in love with his idea, but he didn't do a good job of testing the problem before.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank God for you. You saved the man's life savings from that. And it's I know a lot of people that just, are really just have a conviction for their ideas, and
Yeah.
they want to tackle it, and they just, love it. But yeah, have you done enough research to look out there and say, okay, is this something that
And there's a difference between a great idea and a viable business solution,
Mhm.
and the viability of that business solution is predicated on the size of the problem and the willingness of people to pay to have the problem solved, and the cost at which we can provide a solution to them relative to their willingness to pay.
Absolutely. Wow. So Jeff, I want to talk a little bit more about Innovation Junkie and what you're doing with your clients today. So what does an engagement look like for you and your clients?
So an engagement usually begins as a strategic growth engagement where they're growth oriented. They really want to grow, and they need to figure out how to grow. And so we engage. We're usually in a 12-month engagement with them, although we do some project-based work, but usually it's a 12-month engagement. And we use our growth diagnostic, growthdx.ai. And it's an assessment that the senior leadership of the organization take, usually 7 to 10 respondents, and it assesses the organization on about 75 best practices around 7 diagnostic domains. Revenue velocity being one of those, which is the speed, power, and effectiveness of your sales, marketing, and messaging. Organizational effectiveness, the degree to which you have a plan for growth. Operational effectiveness, the speed, power, and efficiency of your operating processes. Leadership effectiveness, innovation readiness, digital readiness, the degree to which you're taking advantage of the digital and data technologies that are available to you. And finally, the financial disciplines. And so we produce kind of a heat map for them. And from there, we use the processes of innovation to help them solve some of those challenges within that diagnostic. And then we put a strategic growth planning or strategic growth system around that over the course of the next several months. That it usually involves some leadership and executive development for them. It usually involves some coaching of the CEO in terms of creating that culture of excellence that we want to create. Most of our clients usually sign on after the first year for another year or two following that.
That's awesome, Jeff. I love how you kind of narrow them down into that focus. So it's just not like, hey, let's just, blue sky thinking, what do we want to do? You give them a framework that helps them really understand how are they going to grow their business.
For sure.
Love it.
For sure.
Yeah. And Jeff, I know you have like an innovation blueprint. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So, I was looking at all the different models for innovation and organizational transformation and really never found one that just end to end created kind of the end to end process. And so I have one here that I'll make available to anyone. It's the subtitle of it is Disrupt the Status Quo, Create Massive Value, and Generate Sustained Results. And you really can divide it rather into 3 sections. The first section on the problem solving element. What's the problem, result, or opportunity, along with the quantitative and the qualitative validation and the pivoting that needs to happen there. Then there's the solution design, very human-centered, design thinking oriented solution design that's really focused on the technical feasibility, the desirability, and the business viability. And then finally, how do we make it stick? Some of the primary components of organizational transformation that begin with create the right climate, build a base of support, and then make it stick. And so that's the transformation element. So I'll be glad to make that available to any one of your listeners who wants to send me an email, Jeff S as in Standridge, Jeff S at innovationjunkie.com, or they can hit me up on LinkedIn as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff, for making that available. I definitely will be getting a copy myself. And I will put in the show notes your email, your LinkedIn information so people can reach out to you. But that is super awesome. Jeff, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, talk to you about innovation. I feel like I'm geeking out over here on all things innovation. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
The best way I could say it is the way that Ash Maurya said it, and it's fall in love with your problem. Don't fall in love with your problem, with the problem you're trying to solve, not with your idea. And that's the best way to leave it, I think. I appreciate you, Matt, for having me.
I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Take care.
You too.
We have made it to the end of another episode. Thank you for tuning in. A couple of things before you go. If you have found value in this episode, I am sure you'll find value in what we have coming up. So please subscribe so you will have access and know when we launch the next episode. Also, leave a review. The more reviews we have, the further our reach becomes, and I truly want this to be heard by as many leaders as possible. Don't hog this all for yourself. I would love to hear your insights on this topic, so meet me on social media at Matt Muller Innovation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And lastly, if you want to learn more about my story and what I can do for you and your company, go to themindfulinnovator.com. I would love to help you innovate on purpose. Until next time, just remember, bring a level of awareness to each conversation, each observation, each moment, and you can create great change in this world. Thank you.